December 18, 1944, before dawn, somewhere east of Stavelot, Belgium. The engine coughs once, then dies. In the half-light, exhaust hangs in the air like breath from a wounded animal. Snow crunches under boots as an SS tank commander climbs down from his Panther and slams a gloved fist against frozen steel. The fuel gauge needle rests on empty. Not low, empty. You can almost feel the cold biting through wool and leather, the kind of cold that creeps into bones and refuses to leave. The Ardennes Forest stands silent around them, tall pines black against a gray sky. No artillery, no aircraft, just stalled armor and the sound of men swearing quietly, afraid to speak too loudly, as if the forest itself is listening. This is not how it was supposed to be. Just 48 hours earlier, these same columns had surged forward with terrifying confidence. The offensive had a name meant to inspire destiny, Wacht am Rhein, the Watch on the Rhine. Adolf Hitler's last gamble. A surprise blow through the Ardennes, splitting the Allied armies, seizing Antwerp and forcing the Western Allies to the negotiating table. Speed was everything. Speed, surprise, and fuel. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Paper knew that better than anyone. At the head of Kampfgruppe Paper, the armored spearhead of the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, his orders were brutally simple. Drive west. Don't stop. Capture American fuel dumps intact. Without them, the advance dies. Now in the freezing dawn, his tanks are already starving. A staff officer jogs up, boots slipping on ice, breath ragged. Herr Obersturmbannführer, the half-tracks are dry. The Panthers too, we've siphoned what we can. Paper doesn't answer immediately. He stares down the road ahead, toward the Meuse River, toward Antwerp, toward a victory that suddenly feels impossibly far away. Somewhere behind him, a Panzer grenadier mutters the unthinkable. We were promised fuel. At Hitler's headquarters in the Adelhorst bunker near Bad Nauheim, the maps still look magnificent. Bold arrows sweep westward across Belgium. American units are marked as scattered, unprepared, fragile. The weather is perfect, heavy cloud cover grounding Allied aircraft, exactly as planned. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, nominal commander in the West, had warned him. So had General der Panzertruppen Hasso von Manteuffel. The fuel reserves were insufficient, the assumptions unrealistic, the roads too narrow, the margins too thin. Hitler had dismissed them all. We must dare, he said. Only daring can bring salvation. But daring does not refill tanks. By the third day of the offensive, reports begin filtering back, delayed, incomplete, and increasingly alarming. Panzer units are advancing, but slower than expected. Traffic jams clog the forest roads. Bridges are blown. American resistance stiffens with every mile. And everywhere, the same word appears in after-action reports. Kraftstoff fuel. General der Waffen-SS Joseph Sepp Dietrich, commanding the 6th SS Panzer Army, knows the truth before most. His formations are elite on paper, tigers, panthers, veteran crews hardened on the Eastern Front. But they are chained to logistics that no longer exist. American fuel dumps were supposed to be plentiful, undefended, waiting to be seized. Instead, many have already been destroyed. Others lie just out of reach, across blown bridges or behind stubborn American roadblocks manned by exhausted infantrymen who refuse to move. The war is being decided not by armor thickness or gun caliber, but by gallons of gasoline. Back near Stavelot, Paper's column tries to improvise. Fuel trucks are commandeered. Jerrycans scavenged from abandoned vehicles. Tanks are refueled one by one, like patients receiving transfusions. A Panther roars back to life, then another. But it's never enough. American engineers blow the Ambelv bridges ahead of him. Fuel trucks are destroyed by artillery fire. Jabos, American fighter bombers, will soon return once the weather clears. Paper knows what that means. He has seen it before in Normandy. Without fuel, armor becomes steel coffins. An SS officer approaches him cautiously. Herr Obersturmbannführer, if we continue, we may not be able to withdraw. Paper's jaw tightens. Withdraw, the word tastes like betrayal. The orders from above are absolute. Advance at all costs. But for the first time since the offensive began, he feels it, not fear, but something colder. Doubt. Elsewhere along the front, the same realization is spreading. General Manteuffels' 5th Panzer Army advances faster than Dietrich's SS units, but even his formations begin to stall. Fuel allocations are measured in hours, not days. Commanders are forced to choose which battalions move and which are left behind. Panzer Lehr, once the pride of Germany's armored force, abandons vehicles simply because there is no fuel to move them. Crews spike guns, destroy optics, and march on foot through the snow. In headquarters tents and forest clearings, senior officers speak in lowered voices. This cannot reach Antwerp. We will never reach the Meuse. The Americans are recovering too fast. These are not defeatists. These are professionals, men who have commanded armies across continents, and they all see the same thing. The offensive is burning itself out. By the evening of December 18th, the Ardennes snow is littered with abandoned vehicles. Tanks with full ammunition racks but empty fuel tanks. Prime movers frozen solid. Half-tracks pushed into ditches and stripped for parts. The spearhead has slowed to a crawl. And somewhere deep inside the German command structure, a terrifying question finally surfaces. One no one dares speak aloud in Hitler's presence. What if the gamble has already failed? What if the offensive was doomed the moment it began, not by American resistance, but by an empty fuel tank? The generals are about to say it. And when they do, the truth will be impossible to ignore. December 19, 1944, late afternoon, a converted schoolhouse outside Prüm, Germany. The room smells of damp wool, cigarette smoke, and ink. Boots track melting snow across the floor as officers crowd around a long wooden table. A single lamp hangs low over the maps, its light flickering every time the generator outside sputters. The arrows are still there. Bold, confident, sweeping west toward the Meuse. But now they no longer match reality. General der Panzertruppen Hasso von Manteuffel stands with both hands on the table, his face drawn tight. He has not slept in nearly 48 hours. His eyes move from one report to the next, each message another thread unraveling the illusion. Panzer Lehr reports only enough fuel for 30 kilometers. 2nd Panzer Division halted south of Bastogne. Bridges destroyed, no alternate crossings. He exhales slowly. Around him, no one speaks. These men know what silence means in the German army. It means the truth has arrived, and no one wants to be the first to acknowledge it. The maps lie. Not deliberately, not maliciously, but completely. In the woods and villages of the Ardennes, the offensive is no longer a coordinated thrust. It is a series of isolated pushes, each one dependent on fuel that no longer exists. Units are advancing on paper while standing still in the snow. A young signals officer steps forward, hesitates, then clears his throat. Herr General, Kampfgruppe reports heavy resistance near Stavelot. Fuel situation critical. Manteuffel closes his eyes for a moment. He had warned them. All of them had. The plan demanded miracles from logistics already stretched to breaking. Captured fuel was not a bonus. It was the plan itself. Without it, the operation collapses inward. Farther north, Sepp Dietrich's headquarters is little better. Dietrich paces back and forth, massive shoulders hunched beneath his greatcoat. He is no tactician, but he understands men and machines, and he understands this. The 6th SS Panzer Army is starving. Tigers sit immobile with full ammunition but dry tanks. Panthers are cannibalized for parts. Fuel convoys that should have followed the spearhead are trapped miles behind, snarled in traffic jams that stretch for kilometers along forest roads never meant for this weight of steel. An SS staff officer finally says what everyone is thinking. Without fuel, we cannot continue the advance. Dietrich stops packing. He stares at the man, eyes hard, but there is no anger in them now, only fatigue. Then we will take it, he replies, from the Americans. It sounds defiant, it sounds decisive. But no one in the room believes it anymore. The Americans are no longer surprised. That is the other truth the maps cannot show. At first, U.S. units had been caught off guard, clerks, cooks, and engineers thrown into the line to slow the German surge. But now the response is hardening. Roadblocks are reinforced, bridges are destroyed in time, fuel dumps are blown before German columns can reach them. At Staumont, American infantry and tank destroyers dig in with quiet determination. They know what the Germans need, and they are determined not to give it to them. Every delayed hour bleeds the offensive dry. That night, Manteuffel dictates a message he never wanted to send. The wording is careful, respectful, professional. Fuel shortages are more severe than anticipated, progress slower than planned, enemy resistance increasing. He does not write the word failure. He does not have to. In Berlin and at the Ardennes bunker, the meaning is clear. The gamble is slipping away. December 20th, Ardennes, Hitler's conference room. The Führer stands rigid at the head of the table, hands clasped behind his back. The generals face him in silence. Rundstedt, Model, Jodl, Kadel, men who have delivered victories and disasters in equal measure. Rundstedt speaks first, his voice steady but strained. Mein Führer, the offensive has not achieved the necessary tempo. Hitler turns slowly. His eyes are fever-bright. Tempo, he repeats, or will? No one answers. General Alfred Jodl steps in carefully. The fuel situation is more difficult than anticipated. Captured supplies have been limited. Limited. A word chosen to avoid explosion. Hitler's jaw tightens. He snaps his head toward the maps. Then they must advance faster. Fuel lies ahead of them. Rundstedt cannot stop himself now. They cannot reach it if they cannot move. The room freezes. For a long moment, the only sound is the crackle of the fireplace. Then Hitler speaks, his voice low and dangerous. Are you saying my soldiers lack the will to advance? Rundstedt holds his ground. No, Mein Führer, I am saying machines require fuel. It is as close to defiance as anyone has dared in months. The meeting ends without resolution. Orders remain unchanged. Advance, push forward, capture Antwerp. But as the generals file out, none of them believe it anymore. Outside, snow continues to fall over the Ardennes. It settles on abandoned vehicles, on frozen corpses, on maps that no longer matter. And somewhere west of the front, American fuel dumps burn, deliberately destroyed by their own troops, sending black smoke into the winter sky. Each plume is another door closing. The generals know it now. The offensive is not just slowing. It is bleeding out. And soon someone will have to say it aloud. December 22, 1944, morning, a forest clearing near Bastogne. The snow has been churned into gray slush by boots, tires, and desperation. Broken tree limbs lie scattered like matchsticks. A German command post sits half-buried beneath camouflage netting, its radio antenna swaying slightly in the wind. Inside, the mood has changed. There is no shouting, no bravado, no talk of Antwerp. Only numbers. A major reads from a clipboard, his voice flat. Fuel remaining for armored elements, 12 to 24 hours depending on movement. No one looks up. The implication is obvious. Movement is the problem. General der Panzertruppen Hasso von Manteuffel listens without interrupting. He stands near the map board, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on Bastogne, a small town now surrounded by German forces but still stubbornly holding out. Bastogne was supposed to fall quickly. A crossroads, nothing more. Instead, it has become a cork in the bottle, blocking the roads west and trapping German units in place. And every hour Bastogne holds, fuel drains away. An aide steps forward with a message intercepted from American radio traffic. The tone is calm, confident, reinforcements inbound, supplies dropping by air. Manteuffel closes his eyes briefly. The Americans are being resupplied from the sky. The Germans are being starved on the ground. That is the war now. Elsewhere, the admissions are no longer whispered. At 6th SS Panzer Army headquarters, Sepp Dietrich finally says the words his staff has avoided. We cannot continue the offensive on this axis. The room does not react. No gasps, no protests, just quiet nods. Dietrich is not surrendering. He is acknowledging physics. Panzer divisions are not cavalry. They cannot forage. They cannot improvise their way out of empty tanks. Every kilometer costs fuel the Reich no longer has. An SS logistics officer lays out the reality. Fuel convoys are delayed by traffic jams stretching back into Germany. American artillery and air attacks destroy what little gets through. Reserve stocks are gone. Dietrich rubs his face with both hands. The Führer will not accept this. No, the officer replies softly, he will not. That afternoon, Manteuffel sends another report. This one is different. It is no longer cautious, no longer dressed in optimism. The offensive has culminated, he writes. Further advance without immediate fuel delivery is impossible. Culminated. A cold, technical word, but every professional officer knows what it means. The attack has reached its limit. From here on, every step forward costs more than it gains. At Adelhorst, the word lands like a shell. Hitler reads the report in silence, lips moving slightly. He sets it down slowly. Culminated, he repeats. Then his voice hardens. Nonsense. He orders the attack to continue. He orders Bastogne taken. He orders the Meuse reached. But the generals do not argue now. They exchange glances. They have stopped trying to convince him. December 23rd, the skies clear. It happens almost instantly. Sunlight breaks through the clouds, reflecting off the snow so brightly it hurts the eyes. And with it comes a sound German soldiers have learned to fear above all others. Engines. American fighter bombers sweep low over the Ardennes, hunting anything that moves. Fuel trucks explode in fountains of fire. Abandoned tanks are strafed for good measure. Roads become killing grounds. A German tank commander watches helplessly as a P-47 Thunderbolt lines up on his immobilized Panther. He cannot move. He cannot fight back. He can only wait. The aircraft roars overhead. The explosion lifts the tank off the ground. Another fuel problem solved for the Americans. That evening, the final admission spreads through the ranks. Orders come down quietly. Hold current positions. Prepare defensive lines. Preserve combat power. No one says retreat. But everyone understands it. The offensive is over. Not officially, not publicly, but in reality. The men who planned it know the truth now, and they can no longer avoid it. The Ardennes gamble has failed. And the price for that failure is about to be paid, not in maps or reports, but in lives and captured divisions. Because once an army runs out of fuel, it doesn't stop. It gets hunted. December 24th, 1944, Christmas Eve, the Ardennes front. Snow falls steadily, soft and relentless, settling over wreckage and shallow graves alike. Church bells ring faintly from villages still standing, their sound carried through the trees like a memory from another life. For the German army in the Ardennes, there will be no Christmas. Orders filter down the chain of command, carefully worded, stripped of any hint of retreat. Front begradigen, straighten the line, elastisch Verteidigung, elastic defense. Words meant to soften reality. What they mean is simple. Hold what you can, abandon what you must. Near La Glise, Joachim Paper stands beside a map spread across the hood of a staff car. His face is hollow, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Around him, the remnants of Kampfgruppe Paper huddle in the cold, men who had once been the spear tip of Hitler's last offensive. Now they are stranded. The fuel is gone, completely. Paper listens as an engineer officer explains the situation. No fuel trucks can reach them. American forces are closing in. The only way out is on foot, through forest and snow, under cover of darkness. Behind them, dozens of vehicles sit abandoned, Panthers, half-tracks, artillery pieces. Perfectly usable, perfectly helpless. Paper gives the order without ceremony. Destroy the vehicles. Charges are placed, optics smashed, radios torn out, engines ruined with grenades. One by one, the machines that were meant to carry the Reich to victory are reduced to burning hulks. You can almost feel it, the weight of defeat settling in the chest. This is not a tactical withdrawal. This is survival. Across the front, the same scenes repeat. At the 2nd Panzer Division, crews push tanks into ravines after draining the last drops of fuel. Panzer Lehr, once Hitler's showpiece formation, fights as dismounted infantry. Tigers sit frozen in place, their thick armor useless without mobility. Generals who once spoke of seizing Antwerp now argue over where to draw a defensive line that can actually be supplied. The arithmetic is unforgiving. No fuel. No maneuver, no escape. At Adelhorst, the mood has curdled into something darker. Hitler refuses to accept the word retreat. He orders Bastogne taken again, demanding one final effort to unlock the road network. He speaks of willpower, of sacrifice, of turning defeat into victory through resolve alone. But the generals are finished pretending. Field Marshal Walther Model, commanding Army Group B, requests authority to pull back. He does not ask politely. He states necessity. We risk the destruction of our armored forces, he warns. Hitler explodes, voices are raised, accusations fly. Then something remarkable happens. Model does not back down. The silence afterward is heavy. For the first time, Hitler is confronted not by caution, but by refusal. December 26th, Bastogne is relieved. American tanks punch through from the south, linking up with the besieged paratroopers of the 101st Airborne. Supplies flow in. Wounded are evacuated. The road network the Germans needed so desperately is now firmly in Allied hands. For the German High Command, the last illusion shatters. Without Bastogne, there is no advance. Without fuel, there is no army. That night, Rundstedt sends a message that ends the argument. The offensive has failed. I request immediate permission to withdraw to defensible positions. No euphemisms, no soft language. Just the truth. It takes hours for the reply to come. When it does, it is short. Permission granted, too late. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes, German soldiers dig in where they stand. Some will fight their way out, many will not. The gamble that was meant to change the course of the war has done the opposite. It has bled Germany's last reserves dry. And now, with empty tanks and exhausted men, the Wehrmacht faces what it has avoided for years: the long retreat. But the generals are not thinking about the retreat yet. They are thinking about something worse. How many divisions have they just lost for nothing? January 1st, 1945, Morning, a field headquarters near Koblenz. The new year arrives without celebration. Snow still clings to the hills along the Rhine, but the sounds have changed. The thunder of an offensive has been replaced by the dull, constant pressure of pursuit. Radios crackle endlessly with reports of units disengaging, falling back, or simply disappearing. Inside a cramped headquarters, senior officers gather around a scarred table. The mood is not angry, it is exhausted. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt removes his gloves slowly, methodically, as if the act itself requires concentration. He looks older than his years now. His voice, when he speaks, is low. We have suffered a decisive operational defeat. No one contradicts him. General Alfred Jodl nods once. The armored reserves are spent. Spent, another careful word. What he means is that Germany no longer possesses a mobile strategic reserve in the West. The divisions that survived the Ardennes are shadows of what they were, short of fuel, short of vehicles, short of trained crews. And everyone in the room knows why. The offensive was built on an assumption that failed. Captured fuel. Rundstedt does not rage, he does not dramatize. He states facts. Our planning depended on seizing American supply dumps faster than they could destroy them. This did not occur. A pause. The enemy anticipated it. Another pause. And once our forward units exhausted their fuel, the outcome was inevitable. The word hangs in the air. Inevitable. General Hasso von Manteuffel speaks next. He chooses his words carefully, but the edge is unmistakable. The troops fought well, in many sectors exceptionally well, but no amount of courage can replace logistics. It is not an excuse, it is an indictment. Several officers exchange glances. Everyone knows what Manteuffel is really saying. This was not lost by the soldiers. It was lost by the plan. At another table, Sepp Dietrich sits silently, staring at nothing. When he finally speaks, his voice is rough. My divisions were ordered to advance without secure supply lines. When the fuel ended, the men had no choice. No choice. A phrase heavy with implication. Dietrich does not mention the abandoned tanks, the burned-out Panthers, the elite SS units reduced to foot columns in the snow. He does not need to. The images are burned into all of them. Then someone says it. Quietly, almost casually. The fuel was never there. The room goes still. Rundstedt looks up sharply. Explain. A logistics officer clears his throat. Even if every planned capture had succeeded, total available fuel would not have supported the advance to Antwerp. No one speaks. The offensive was mathematically impossible. The generals' exchange looks that border on disbelief, not at the Americans, not at the weather, at themselves, and at the man who ordered it. Rundstedt leans back slowly. Then we gambled the last armored reserves of the Reich on a hope. A hope. Not a plan. Not a strategy. A hope. The meeting breaks without ceremony. Orders are issued to reorganize, to defend the Rhine, to prepare for what is coming. Everyone knows it will not be enough. As the officers file out, one of them mutters under his breath, not in anger but in resignation. The war is lost. No one tells him to be quiet. Outside, the Rhine flows cold and gray, unchanged by the collapse of armies. American forces are already approaching its western bank. They have fuel, they have air superiority, they have momentum. Germany has none of these things anymore. The Ardennes offensive was meant to be a miracle. Instead, it became a confession. A confession that Germany could no longer fight a modern war. And the generals know it now. December 19, 1944, late afternoon, a converted schoolhouse outside Prüm, Germany. The room smells of damp wool, cigarette smoke, and fresh ink. Boots track melting snow across the wooden floor as officers crowd around a long table. A single lamp hangs low over the maps, its light flickering every time the generator outside sputters. The arrows are still there. Bold, confident, sweeping west toward the Meuse. But now they no longer mean anything. General der Panzertruppen Hasso von Manteuffel leans over the table, both hands planted on the map. He has not slept in nearly 2 days. His eyes move slowly from one unit marker to the next, reading reports that contradict what the paper insists is happening. Panzer Lehr reports fuel for 30 kilometers. 2nd Panzer Division halted south of Bastogne. Bridges destroyed, no alternate crossings. No one speaks. Everyone understands the problem. The offensive exists on paper, but not on the roads. The Ardennes was supposed to swallow American resistance. Instead, it has swallowed German momentum. A young signals officer steps forward, hesitates, then clears his throat. Herr General, Kampfgruppe paper reports heavy resistance near Stavelot. Fuel situation critical. Manteuffel closes his eyes briefly. Critical means empty. Empty means finished. This was the part of the plan no one was supposed to talk about. North of him at 6th SS Panzer Army headquarters, the mood is no better. Sepp Dietrich paces like a caged animal, boots creaking against the floorboards. He is no strategist, but he understands machinery, and machines do not run on ideology. Tigers sit idle with full ammunition racks. Panthers are being cannibalized for parts. Fuel convoys stretch back for miles, locked in traffic jams on forest roads never meant to support an armored army. An SS logistics officer finally speaks the sentence everyone has avoided. Without fuel, we cannot continue the advance. Dietrich stops packing. For a moment, it seems like he might explode. Instead, he exhales slowly. Then we take it, he says, from the Americans. The words sound strong, defiant. But no one in the room believes them anymore. The Americans are learning too. That is the other truth the maps cannot show. At first, U.S. units had been caught off guard, cooks, clerks, engineers thrown into roadblocks to slow the German advance. But now the response is tightening. Bridges are blown before German armor reaches them. Fuel dumps are destroyed deliberately, black smoke rising into the winter sky. Every mile forward costs the Germans more than it gives. Every delay drains their tanks dry. That night, Manteuffel dictates a message he never wanted to send. The wording is careful, respectful, professional. Fuel shortages more severe than anticipated. Progress slower than planned. Enemy resistance increasing. He does not use the word failure. He doesn't need to. December 20th, Adelhorst, Hitler's forward headquarters. The Führer stands rigid at the head of the conference table. The generals face him in silence, Rundstedt, Model, Jodl, Kadel, men who know what defeat looks like, even when no one is allowed to say the word. Rundstedt speaks first. Mein Führer, the offensive has not achieved the required tempo. Hitler turns sharply. Tempo, he snaps, or will? No one answers. Jodl steps in carefully. The fuel situation is more difficult than anticipated. Captured supplies have been limited. Limited. A word chosen to survive the room. Hitler's jaw tightens. Then they must advance faster. Fuel lies ahead of them. Rundstedt finally breaks. They cannot reach it if they cannot move. Silence. For a long moment, the only sound is the crackle of the fireplace. Machines, Rundstedt is saying, do not obey orders. The meeting ends with no changes, no withdrawals, no admissions. Only orders to push forward. But as the generals file out, none of them believe the arrows anymore. Outside, snow continues to fall across the Ardennes, settling over abandoned vehicles and frozen roads. And somewhere west of the front, American fuel dumps burn, destroyed by their own troops before the Germans can reach them. Each plume of smoke is another door closing. The lie on the maps is exposed now. And the generals know it. December 22, 1944, morning, a forest clearing near Bastogne. The snow is no longer white. Boots, tracks, and shell fragments have churned it into a gray paste that smells of oil and cordite. Broken pine branches lie scattered like bones. Beneath camouflage netting, a German command post squats low, its radio antenna swaying slightly in the cold wind. Inside, something has changed. There is no shouting, no optimism, no talk of Antwerp. Only numbers. A major reads from a clipboard, his voice flat. Fuel remaining for armored elements, 12 to 24 hours depending on movement. No one looks up. Movement is the problem. General der Panzertruppen Hasso von Manteuffel stands near the map board, hands clasped behind his back. His eyes rest on Bastogne, a small town that was supposed to be a footnote, now blocking the entire Western road network. Bastogne was meant to fall in hours. Instead, it has become a cork in the bottle. An aide steps forward holding a radio intercept. American traffic, calm, confident, reinforcements inbound, supplies dropping by air. Manteuffel closes his eyes. The Americans are being fed from the sky. The Germans are starving on the ground. That is the war now. North of Bastogne, at 6th SS Panzer Army headquarters, the silence finally breaks. Sepp Dietrich sits heavily at the table, staring at the floor. When he speaks, his voice is hoarse. We cannot continue the offensive on this axis. No one reacts. No one argues. It is not surrender. It is arithmetic. Panzer divisions are not cavalry. They cannot forage. They cannot improvise their way out of empty tanks. Every kilometer costs fuel the Reich no longer has. A logistics officer lays out the reality. Convoys trapped in traffic jams, bridges destroyed, fighter bombers waiting for the weather to clear. Dietrich rubs his face with both hands. The Führer will not accept this. No, the officer replies quietly, he will not. That afternoon, Manteuffel sends a report different from the others. There is no optimism left to preserve. The offensive has culminated, he writes. Further advance without immediate fuel delivery is impossible. Culminated. A professional word. A fatal one. Every trained officer knows its meaning. The attack has reached its limit. From here on, every step forward costs more than it gains. At Adelhorst, the report lands like a blow. Hitler reads it in silence. His lips move slightly as if tasting the word. Culminated, he mutters. Then louder, nonsense. He orders the attack to continue. Bastogne must fall. The Meuse must be reached. Victory is still possible. The generals do not argue. They exchange glances. They have stopped trying to convince him. December 23rd, the weather breaks. Sunlight cuts through the cloud cover, blinding against the snow. And with it comes the sound every German soldier recognizes instantly. Aircraft engines. American fighter bombers sweep low across the Ardennes, hunting anything that moves. Fuel trucks erupt in fire. Columns scatter. Abandoned tanks are strafed for good measure. A German tank commander watches a P-47 Thunderbolt line up on his immobilized Panther. He cannot move. He cannot fight back. He can only wait. The aircraft roars overhead. The explosion lifts the tank off the ground. Another fuel problem solved for the Americans. That night, the final admission spreads through the front. Orders come down quietly. Hold current positions. Prepare defensive lines. Preserve combat power. No one says retreat. No one needs to. The Ardennes offensive is over, not officially, not publicly, but in reality. The generals know it now. And they also know what comes next. An army without fuel does not withdraw. It gets hunted.